All must conquer who would bring down God's peace. This hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape.
Yeah. Uh, we have to go back a little bit because we have to see what we have to conquer. And there are many things that he talks about. He talks about the evil in the human heart. That this whisper that lures to evil, the human heart, that seals up wisdom's eyes and the soul's regard. Regard here means a look, okay? And all of that is the origin of our suffering here. It even binds earth to calamity and pain. So now he is speaking here in the book of fate that anyone who wants to bring down God's peace has to conquer all of this. Has to conquer the suffering, has to conquer the evil, speaking of all of those things. And not only that, he says, but he says, this hidden foe lodged in the human breast. Mother says that we all have that hidden foe within us. And it's that we have to find and get rid of him. So man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape. And people say now, but Mother has come and the supramental has come, and all of that is true. But it was not always true. And this is a book called Conversations with Pavitra. And I'll just read you a few lines because it took place in 1925.
1925, is it?
Yes. But the book was published in 1964, I believe. Yeah. And it's a talk of Sri Aurobindo with Pavitra. Imagine that. You would drift away from the state of consciousness you have glimpsed. It could even be worse. Perhaps after a few years, you would recover. But in any case, you would be missing an opportunity and failing to do what you have to do. You bring to your search a sincerity of heart and a mental capacity for learning, parentheses, by reserving judgment. But your mental activity is a hindrance. You have to quiet your mind. A new consciousness is seeking expression in you. In India, there are people, yogis, who can help you in this and give you a new birth. There will be difficulties in finding them because you do not speak their language, and they are often hard to approach. Still, this is one of the solutions before you. This spiritual consciousness will give you mukti. Personally, my yoga would be completed if my goal were liberation. Mukti is only the first part. The second is to bring down the light into all the instruments, to make them perfect, and to become an embodiment of truth. The universal truth and power will act through you as an instrument. Some persons are more or less unconscious instruments of the Shakti. but it is a question of being perfectly conscious. Now he goes on. This perfection of the human being is difficult, very, very difficult, and it is the work of a lifetime. One may fail and make a mess of one's life. It is so hard, in fact, that I do not advise anyone to take this path. However, there is a powerful aspiration in you and something that is trying to come down. So I place this ideal before you. If you choose it, remain here with us and see what I can give you and what you can take from me before going further. Oh, that's so beautiful. I wanted to share that with you.
Did he say? Did Pavitra stay?
He
Did
stayed.
Pavitra
He
stay?
stayed.
Oh, good.
Well,
Good.
you never heard of his death?
No.
Well, now we're going to diverge, but we have to. He dies. And Mother said, all during the time he was dying, he was putting every part of himself into me. And now he is fully in me. And she said, as he was in this life, he could not have done it. But it must have been a series of past lives that made it possible. The only time Mother said that someone put themselves completely into her.
What does that even mean? I don't even understand that.
He's totally united with the Divine Mother.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. His entire being he put in. So now we see, back to Savitri, that this hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. But I do want to say something to you more about Pavitra and Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
This was before Sri Krishna entered Sri Aurobindo 1 year before that they were talking about. So when Sri Aurobindo says it's very, very, very hard, he's not ready yet to bring down the supramental into himself. And 23 years after he leaves, Mother's working to transform the cells of the body for 23 years. That was her main work. Everything else she had done, her work was complete. It was just the cells of the body. And she even said that those cells would go to anyone who was open to receive them. So, what incredible yoga we're in. We should be so grateful every moment. This is the inner war without escape. Now he's going to take us into a realm where he's speaking specifically about himself. Hard, see, it's in double quotes. Hard is the world redeemer's heavy task. The world itself becomes his adversary. And there are a few things to tell you about that. Or maybe I should do it now. Yeah, okay. Sri Aurobindo says that, well, the dictionary says that an adversary is a person, group, or force that opposes or attacks or acts in a hostile manner. An opponent, an antagonist, an enemy, foe. What does Sri Aurobindo say? When there is some lowering or diminution of the consciousness, or some impairing of it at one place or another, the adversary or the censor, who is always on the watch, presses with all his might wherever there is a weak point lying covered from your own view. And suddenly a wrong movement leaps up with unexpected force. Become conscious and cast out the possibility of its renewal. That is all that is to be done. And then Mother says to us this incredible passage. To conquer the adversary is not a small thing. One must have a greater power than his to vanquish him. But one can liberate oneself totally from his influence. So she's not saying you have to vanquish him, but you can liberate yourself from his influence. And from the minute one is completely free from his influence, one's self-giving can be total. And with the self-giving comes joy. Long before the adversary is truly vanquished and disappears. And then she says again, the adversary will disappear only when he is no longer necessary in the world. And we know very well that he is necessary as the touchstone for gold to know if it is pure. But if one is really sincere, the adversary can't even approach him any longer. And he doesn't try it, because that would be courting his own destruction. Back to Savitri. Those he would save are his antagonists. Oh, what a line. So those that he wants to save, those he would save, are his opponents, his adversaries. We might ask why. Huh? Why are they his antagonists?
Because they're opposed to the light.
Yes.
Like,
and he wants to
like
save
half
them
of America.
Still. Yeah, half, maybe 65%. Anyway, this world is in love with its own ignorance. Its darkness turns away from the Savior light, just what you said. It gives the cross in payment for the crown. Now we saw that in Book 1, Canto 1 also, where he says, they give the cross in payment for the crown, only they leave behind a splendid name. So Christ has given up his crown for the cross. And Sri Aurobindo speaks very, very beautifully about Christ in many of his works. Mother doesn't speak too much about it. Okay, back to the avatar. His work is a trickle of splendor in a long night. Trickle is very slow quantity of something coming in. He sees the long march of time, the little one. Well, the avatar has to see that. But if he didn't, he only comes down when there is a possibility of evolutionary progress. And so we can see that there are years and years and years where there's no growth and no avatar has come. And then suddenly there's a burst that the avatar brings. And here it's the dual avatar, Mother and Sri Aurobindo, who have brought down the supramental. So we are alive in such a marvelous time. Okay, I'm going to go a little further and then I'll have you begin to read. A few are saved, the rest strive on and fail. Well, before we go any further there, yes, they strive on and they fail. But they will be born again and given another opportunity, and born again and given another opportunity. So it's not a total failure. It's not heaven and hell here. Sri Aurobindo would never say that. But he says, a sun has passed. On earth, night's shadow falls. Yes, there are happy ways near to God's Son, but few are they who tread the sunlit path. It's the golden path. And Sri Aurobindo in a letter on yoga says, so the possibility of the sunlit path is not a discovery or original invention of mine. The very first books on yoga I read more than 30 years ago spoke of the dark and sunlit way and emphasized the superiority of the latter over the former. There is a sunlit path as well as a gloomy one, and it is the better of the two, a path in which one goes forward in absolute reliance on the mother, fearing nothing, sorrowing over nothing. Aspiration is needed, but there can be a sunlit aspiration, full of light and faith and confidence and joy. If difficulty comes, even that can be faced with a smile. And this is all in his letters on yoga. I mean, there are so many letters on yoga when he talks about taking the psychic attitude, following the straight sunlit path, with the divine openly or secretly upbearing you. If secretly, he will yet show himself in good time. Do not insist on the hard, hampered, roundabout, and difficult journey.
Something that has been that I've been conflicted about is that when blessings come in the way of material joys or wealth or something like that, it often I often think of Sri Aurobindo when he says this is also not a yoga of satisfying your desires. So I don't know what the correct attitude to it is. Is it to accept and use it for growth, or I don't? I feel conflicted, but maybe it's like the ascetic prints in us that are still hard to fully get
Well,
free from.
Sri
I don't know
Aurobindo,
fully.
yeah, he tells us very clearly if we practice samatha,
Hmm.
that we have to take life equally, even if we are a beggar or a king.
Yes.
And so if we take life equally, we understand that these gifts are gifts of the divine, and we use them for the divine work.
And how do we cultivate more samatha in us? How can we do that?
Well, it's a problem that I've had for many years, so one has to face.
This all must conquer who would bring down God's peace. This hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape. Hard is the world redeemer's heavy task. The world itself becomes his adversary. Those he would save are his antagonists. This world is in love with its own ignorance. Its darkness turns away from the Savior light. It gives the cross in payment for the crown. His work is a trickle of splendor in a long night. He sees the long march of time, the little one. A few are saved, the rest strive on and fail. A sun has passed, on earth night's shadow falls.
Yes, there are happy ways near to God's sun, but few are they who tread the sunlit path. Only the pure in soul can walk in light.
Very, very beautiful, very powerful. So, uh, didn't we do a little more? No.
Yes. An exit is shown, a road of hard escape from the sorrow and the darkness and the chain. But how shall a few escaped release the world? The human mass lingers beneath the yoke.
Yeah. Of course, we've often talked about the yoke being that heavy burden that's on the two bullocks as they thresh the grain. And that yoke on us is matter. We are still subject to matter.
Yes.
We are not free as they are in outer space, weightless. Gravity has no power beyond a certain number of miles into space. There's no gravity anymore. But we are subject to gravity at every moment.
Yeah.
Any questions on the passage? Because it's quite a passage.
So when he says only the pure in soul can walk in light, does he mean the pure in soul can open to mother, can constantly open more and more to mother? What does he mean by that? Or does he mean walking in light is those who are completely transformed?
Not transformed per se, but pure in soul. So they have no evil in themselves. They
But is
have got,
anybody there who is pure in soul without any
well,
evil?
there are quite a few of them, but you see,
Yes.
I have to go for my Savitri Sunday.
Yeah. I will see you next. Are we sticking to our normal time?
Yes, we'll
I,
stick to our normal time.
okay. All right.
Good
Thank
night.
you. It was nice to see you.
Good night.